So hello everyone. So today we had a design challenge that we needed to find a methodology, and the goal of the challenge was to propose a solution for elderly to make their life less lonely. And the target group was the elderly people in age of 75 and over it who are living alone. The resource of this project is 2 to 3 people, and the time allocated was 300 hours, and the time frame was 4 months, is 4 months. And the first question was this one. So we are trying to describe our design methodology. So first we started with the understanding part. So in the emphasizing part, we would interview with how, why laddering method all the participants. We might also include some other relatives of the elderly into the interviews, but this really depends on how the first interviews go and so on. So, but we would use the how, why laddering method because we would really like to understand why and how the elderly do some things in their personal life and how they understand what and so on. So we would write down the scenarios based on the interviews that we collected to understand better what the elderly are going through to move on to our problem defining part. And also in the emphasizing part, we would strongly focus on the emotions, and we would map down and use the empathy maps to understand and structure the elderly's emotions during the interviews and during their life. So when they are feeling lonely. And then we would move on to the problem defining part, where we would just define the problem based on the information that we collected in the emphasize part. Then in the exploration part and in the ideation, we would use the reframing the problem, which means that we would try to understand which emotions which emotions need to be invoked for the successful design for this challenge. Also, we would use the brainstorming and design for emotions during it when brainstorming. So generally, our approach would be very emotionally have a focus on emotions. And also, we would after the initial brainstorming, we would start to structure and evaluate customer needs by using the Kano analysis, which basically helps us to prioritize all the ideas that we collected from the previous brainstorming. And also, we would use the storyboarding for mapping the ideas in a logical order when we have already prioritized them in order to use them later on the prototyping process. And yeah, when we are done with the storyboarding, then we will move to prototyping. It really depends on what we are going to design in the end, but we think that for the service design, we would use the services blueprints approach, and for a physical product design, we would use a prototype. So from the exploration part, when we can always go back to the understanding part and redefine our problems if we need to.
So in the stage of evaluating the first design methods, we want to use the define success criteria because it's important to know what is the success criteria before testing. And after that, we will do the product usability evaluation with the colleagues because it's low cost to test the prototype inside the company, and you can get the feedback from other designers. So after that, we will do the role playing before the actual end user testings, because after doing the role playing, you will be more familiar with the process when you actually doing when you actually testing the product with the real user. So after the role playing, we will do the product usability evaluation with end users to get real feedback from the user. And then so when we do user testing, we will choose the production emotion measurement instrument for the user testing, because this challenge we face is a challenge. We want to eliminate the elderly's lonely emotions. So we pay attention to the user's emotions when we test our products. And after the testing, we will do an interview and a questionnaire to the users to get feedback from the users. The reason we choose the interview is because when you talk to people, you can more know what kind of feeling they use your service. And why we choose the questionnaire is because maybe the user who use our product we talk about is elderly people. So sometimes it's harder to talk with the elderly people because some elderly people maybe have it's hard to hear something. So we also use the questionnaire to collect the feedback from the users. And after we collect this feedback, we will do role playing and user testing again. And after all these methods have used, we will make decisions using the criteria.
So the next part is placing our chosen design methodologies on the map proposed by Lee Sanders. On this map, well, our scenario is a little bit different than what she explained, because in her situation, it was non-designers designing, and for us, it's mostly designers. I will start from the first experiential part, and from there, she explained it through gaining different layers of knowledge, and we are doing an interview, so we're just getting explicit knowledge. Then the designers or the team solving the problem is going to do a written scenario and problem defining and an empathy map, which goes in the make bubble here. We think it's a good solution because with our users, it makes sense to do an interview with them, and the different layers of knowledge are not so easy to access maybe. Then the next exploring experiences part, in the make part, we're making a kind of analysis, storyboarding, services blueprints, or a prototype based on the end product, if it's going to be a service or an actual physical product. And then in the say part, we have brainstorming, design for emotion, and reframing the program. And I think that is the part that's mostly different, because we don't have enacting and telling is not a big part, because our process involves designers and not non-designers. Then in the last evaluative part, there's a little bit of enacting, the role playing we use for initial testing of the product, kind of inside the company. Then in the do part, there's user testing and product usability evaluation. And in the say part, it's interviews where people say what they felt using the product, decision making, and define user criteria. The next part is placing this methodology in the map we remember from the last assignment. And I think here it was fairly easy for us, because our whole design methodology puts a lot of emphasis on emotion. So our methodology needs to be close to that design and emotion bubble. And it's also very user-centered, so it needs to be close to that. So we chose a place right in the middle of these two bubbles. So it's kind of more in the expert mindset side and in the design-led side of the map. Thank you very much.